Tonight, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome an artist whose work doesn't simply hang on gallery walls. It invites you into an ancient story and asks you to see it with your new eyes. Efrossini Chaniotis is an acclaimed Greek-Australian painter, sculptor, and visual storyteller whose remarkable career spans Australia and Europe. After studying sculpture at the South Australian School of Art, she completed a second fine arts degree at the Athens School of Fine Arts, where she won the prestigious Lecturer's Prize in consecutive years and earned a scholarship to study at the Madrid School of Fine Art. She has also completed a master's in art therapy from La Trobe University and has been recognised with major accolades, including the Gippsland Sculpture Prize. Her work blends technical brilliance with mythology, emotion, and imagination, creating experiences that are as thought-provoking as they are visually stunning. I recently, only last week, had the privilege of attending her extraordinary exhibition, Odyssey. A huge thank you to Mary and my friend Dina, and was mesmerized by the way she brings Homer's epic to life through paintings, sculptures, and immersive storytelling, while boldly reimagining Penelope as a central force in the journey. So I'd like you to please join me in welcoming the incredible, talented Efrossini Chaniotis, also known as Effie, to the KK Factor, the Greek EuroBeat show, radio on RPPFM, the voice of the peninsula. Now let's see if we can. Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you very clearly.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful. First of all, I would like to ask you, how are you?
Still recovering.
It was a massive weekend.
I'm feeling really energized by all the beautiful people that have been coming into the gallery, and I've been journeying into new conversations with them because each time people bring their own perceptions to the work, and that's a great gift for me. I get to see my art from different perspectives, so it's very unique when all the art is installed in a complete circle where they all can be seen in relation to each other. Like, as you can see, my studio is small. It's a small studio, so I don't get to experience my art until it's in the gallery. I get to see it like gallery visitors. So I've been so energized. It's made up for all the fatigue from working so hard in the lead up. I was just smiling on the way home today. Jim and Georgia, I don't know if they're watching this, but
shout out.
They came in today and we just had the most incredible conversation and walk around the gallery talking about each piece. And yeah, it was really beautiful. So I'm feeling good and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much.
This is a really nice opportunity.
Thank you, Effie. Effie, your artistic journey has taken you from Australia to Greece, Spain, and back again. Looking back, what experiences or mentors shaped the artist that you are today?
Oh, that's such a great question, Roula. Wow. Look, when I first did art school in Australia, I was young. Like, it was my first, it was uni for me, the equivalent, straight after high school. I was a sponge. So I got so much from all the lecturers at the South Australian School of Art at that time. But I didn't find my footing until I went to Greece. So my biggest influence was Nikos Christoforakis and Litsa Martzoukou, who were final year students at the Athens School of Fine Arts when I met them. And they had a frondistirio, like a school where they were teaching drawing to architecture and fine arts people that wanted to get into the school through the Polytechnio. And you have to sit for like really grueling exams, cut off from any support for a week in order to get selected from thousands of applicants every year. So people go to these frondistiria to learn the basics of drawing. And the kind of conversations these guys would have, like, they were psychologists, like they would get deep into your soul. It wasn't just teaching you skills. They were masterful, like they were Rembrandts. Like I've never seen art like that before. And that's
Wow.
why I saw Litza was doing portraits of tourists in Corfu the summer that I went, just for 2 months. And she befriended me and almost adopted me. And I was so, like I had a degree. I could walk around saying I'm an artist, but
Lovely.
I just felt my mouth just zip up. And I knew that this was a whole new paradigm. And so she inspired me. And then I decided I wanted to be a student all over again because of them.
Lovely.
But they're, a lot of I think of my friends and my peers when I don't think of the great artists. I can list off a million artists. And Dimitri Mitaran, he was my teacher in Athens, at the Athens School of Fine Art. So his teacher was Morali. Like it's a whole lineage of the most incredible artists of Greece. And so I was impacted by simple words or observations that he made. You wanted to be the best you could be, when you were in that environment. That's just one way to answer it.
Thank you. I know, because I didn't run any questions with you, and I prefer not to, because it's nice to catch the person you interview unaware. And because you are a storyteller, it's, that thought process. You work across paintings. Now, I've seen all this, okay? So you work across painting, sculpture, and performance. How do you decide which medium is the best storyteller for the ideas you want to express?
First, I'm for the art. So I'm a latris of art, of the object, right? So it's all in service of the art. I'm trained in creating art. The story is something that came through me as in the process. So I will sacrifice the story for the art. First of all, that's who I serve. That's what I serve. And the story can be told without my words. Do you know what I mean? Like, good art doesn't need the storyteller. It's just that I tapped into that quality of my personality. And
It's another skill set.
Sorry?
It's definitely another skill set of yours.
Yes, I feel my skin tingling when I talk. And I think I attribute it. The one thing that I attribute it to, not the only thing, because I think there's so many levels. You're not always conscious of all the levels, but you know that there are more levels. Was hearing a story, just being told stories as a child in Gergira, like I was little, 3 years old, and would get taken by this dada, I can't remember her name. She had a name, and she'd go to the park in Corfu and be surrounded by children, and just hearing her, and I can't actually remember seeing, but I know the feeling. So there's something deeply mystical and ancient about storytelling, and I believe I've developed a real passion or belief that adults need to be exposed to storytelling the way children are. That there's a place for that in the fine art gallery, in the big galleries. And I guess as a Greek, over the years, I've been able to acknowledge that's in my DNA as well.
Yes.
But I also have a genuine passion or drive to describe the story of the art to people, whether that's the actual mythology in the art, the story, or whether it's the story of how it was made. Because I went through art therapy. I was a professional art therapist, but my main priority was always my art practice, and I was exhibiting, and I always had a studio. It was never, the art therapy was secondary in a way, but I stepped off that train very quickly once I saw that the art therapy engendered a lot of passion for me as well. But my devotion was to fulfilling my role as an artist in this lifetime. So I sort of stepped back because I wasn't willing for that to compete. I couldn't give myself 150% to the art therapy because my real affair was with my art. So I stepped away. Yeah, but I think the art therapy experience fueled that natural inclination that I had to believe that everyone is everyone deserves to tap into their creativity.
That's
And I
right.
think, and I tell the stories of the art also because I have a relationship to the objects as that I'm their caretaker, that they're separate from me. They're not simply an extension of me, that they have their own intelligence and their own presence, and that it's my duty to be a good host, to speak on their behalf when needed, to help people come closer to them, to develop a deeper relationship with it. And I think in our society, it's getting very precious to have poetic spaces in our lives where we can just connect to something deeply and meaningfully. And it's a different type of technology that I see its value. So, but the storytelling is secondary.
Storytelling is also another form of teaching. Now, you're teaching us about the art, about the sculptures, what is in that picture that we're looking at. And when it's done in the correct way by storytelling, a lot of people can leave and remember.
Yeah,
Storytelling, like for me, everyone learns in different ways. For
yeah,
me, when I've had to do some studying on some very difficult subjects, I thought, I'm going to fail these subjects. But in actual fact, I excelled because the way they were taught was through storytelling. And it's a
yes, yeah.
way to understand, and you're expressing. Your latest exhibition, Odyssey, reimagines Penelope as a central force rather than simply someone waiting at home. What inspired you to turn this familiar story on its head? On,
Yeah. I love, Roula, beautiful questions,
literally.
really beautiful questions. So I was a devotee to Homer's Odyssey. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to, well, I'm not an illustrator, but depict in my paintings the truth, the story as we know it of Odysseus's journey from the minute he leaves Troy to the minute his feet touch the soil of Ithaca. That was my focus. That was the brief that I set myself. And it wasn't until I started the first painting that I found myself having questions like, I wonder what was Penelope doing at that time in the
Yes,
story, which of course
that's right.
I know the answer because I read the Odyssey and I was surrounded by all different translations and books on the Odyssey. That wasn't the kind of question I was asking. I think I was asking as a contemporary woman, an artist who likes to look in between, between the spaces and find other ways, other possibilities on things. So when I asked myself that, I had a very a very different response. Like when he had come up with the idea of the Trojan horse, I had this image of her with horses. And then
That's
it clicked. I thought she was spending time with horses and she implanted the idea in his mind about horses because his second half, like his soulmate, is affecting him. He's affecting her. And we know that in our day-to-day life, we have our own everyday mythology. And we can argue the value, the validity, or the truth or not of that. But it just set up this new premise. What if Penelope's experiences are influencing Odysseus' experiences without me intruding or changing the scenes of the Odyssey that I had already committed to doing in painting form? And that's when the sculptures came forward, doing sculptures of Penelope, keeping it separate from the paintings. So it's like a parallel reality. It allows me to still honor the story and also my own artistic inquiry and curiosity about how would I paint these scenes now, because I did the Odyssey when I first came back from Greece in 2001. I was in Adelaide, which is where I was born. I went back to Adelaide briefly, but I couldn't last for very long in Adelaide after being in Athens and Get-Gidda and traveling different parts of the world. I didn't last very long in Adelaide. But in that time, the work that I did embark on, fresh from graduating from the Athens School of Fine Art with my painting degree, funnily enough, was themes around the Odyssey. And so I set myself, I had been always wondering about going back to that theme over the years, and it clicked. The last 2 years I set myself a plan that in the next big project, I'm going to set myself this. So, so that was my initial intention, but then it had a life to it. This idea of working only in the sculptures for the Penelope, which kept it separate and allowed the integrity of the paintings to have their own story, but in between each canvas is a corresponding sculpture. And boy, oh boy, did the intuition serve me well, because there's some really, really beautifully formed mythologies around these Penelope.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they don't intrude on your love of Homer's, what we know of Homer's tale. That's my understanding, and that's what people are telling me. But does that answer your question?
It does answer my question. It does. You spent 12 months creating Odyssey. What was the most challenging moment during the process?
Oh, geez. God, Roula, you're awesome. Let me think. Challenging was lots of things. So let me focus on one, if I can, for you. The most challenging, look, was composing these really dynamic scenes of Odysseus, like of the Odyssey. The sculptures are they're challenging in another way, but artistically creating the compositions for each painting and the particularity of each scene and the mood of each stage. And in some, because I knew the space that I was working within, so I'd already calculated the size of the paintings enough to feel it, because I was so determined not to cram the space. I really needed a lot of air between the canvases and the sculptures, and you've been in the space. I think I've just managed it. Like, it could have just tipped over the edge. So it's just perfect. It's like 7 paintings and 7 sculptures, and then there's a painting and a sculpture in the window, which were add-ons, which were perfect because they were to the window.
Like the icing of the cake, the way I saw it.
Yes, and also the painting was vertical, not horizontal, like the panoramic. See, because it was after, like, it was Penelope and Odysseus's first kiss, but it was kind of a footnote to the main core of the exhibition. So technically, artistically, was creating vitality in the images, movement, because they talk about a lot of dynamic movement all the way through. There's some solemn, quieter, softer, slower scenes, but a lot of them are very dynamic for Odysseus being the hero that's in action. And also dividing the space of the canvas to create sometimes really big time periods and movements from one island to the other. Like in one island, he's there for 7 years, and I've had to coordinate because I couldn't do one canvas each significant.
You did it beautifully.
So I gave the sirens one canvas. I gave the releasing of the winds in the beginning. They're its own canvas. I gave the Trojan farewell, which is him leaving, the first image, there its own canvas, but all the rest had to be created.
That's right. I want to move away from the art exhibition Odyssey for the moment, only because I really would like to entice people, and I think we're giving them enough to go to the art gallery. I have promoted that onto my all my social platforms. So I want people to get down there. You've got the whole week. It finishes on
the only chance this work will ever be seen together, ever.
That's right. And it's a very unique experience, hence why I've got you live on the KK Factor. So moving on from that, you also hold a master's in art therapy. Now, has your understanding of healing and human emotion changed the way you approach your creative practice and the stories you tell?
No, I allow it all just to, I don't think theoretically, but what it did do, I'll tell you what it did do, and I mentioned it earlier, it's one of the most powerful. I used a lot of different approaches and techniques when I practice art therapy, and I practice in a lot of different settings, like some real clinical settings as well, and private practice, and a lot of creative kind of working with groups that wasn't so much about healing but about creative expression, just people getting in touch with their creative expression. But I found one of the most powerful approaches was to think of the artwork as separate from yourself. So when you're creating, you're expressing something really difficult and it's on paper. When you have an illness or you have like a label or something that's, a real burden, you feel like it's part of you. You're not, so by drawing it or painting or expressing it in whatever degree of skill wasn't important, on a separate piece of paper or a canvas, and putting it at a distance so you can look at it. You're physically looking at it from a distance. You're physically in the act of separating yourself from it. That little act was so powerful. And then you'd harness that as a therapist. And then to think about the art as your friend, or as there to assist you, or there with its own message for you, separate from you, allowed a lot of possibilities for healing, new relationships with yourself, and also with the art. With, how many times you treat the art, you kind of rip it up, or you are judging it. But if you treat it with kindness, you can't judge it. If you treat it like a person that you're wanting to show kindness to, or you're starting to develop that idea that you might treat it with the sort of kindness or way that you want to be treated, that
with respect,
developing that relationship. So I've strengthened my idea that the art has its own, the art is telling the story. It's not me projecting the story on it. Like, I'll look at my art and ask questions about shapes or drasi, like it's something that is happening if there's a character doing something, I develop curiosity about it. And then the answer often would come in the next painting, or there's something in the work that I get curious about and I want to explore it a bit more, and I isolate it and bring it into the next artwork and elaborate on it, and the answer, more understanding, comes in that next phase. And what you have is the beginning of a narrative, because if you think of every piece being interconnected, one dependent on the other, or one being born from the next. So I have less of an ego relationship with the artwork, and I treat it with respect, and then I speak about it and I share its voice with others, and then I let others also draw their own wisdom from it, which means that artwork is alive. When people have these works in their homes, they know that they have, or when they're relating to them in the gallery, they have this opportunity to think of it as something powerful. And
that's right, and something that they can actually sit at the dining table and talk about.
And that it can change and bring them new information, bring them new stories, that it's alive, that there's an aliveness to it, a presence in it that is there for their benefit, and has wisdom in it.
If Greek mythology has captivated audience for thousands of years, particularly now, more so I've come across, why do you think that these ancient stories continue to resonate so deeply with modern audiences, especially the younger generation?
Again, there's a lot of ways to answer that question, Roula. One way would be that they hold universal themes. Like, the ancients were, many things, but they're also very present. So they've drawn out a lot of the core themes that we have in life. Like, we're very noisy now, but back then they had a lot of time, especially I was going to say, during the age of the philosophers, but nonetheless, they were paying attention. They were very perceptive, and we haven't changed that much. Look at the state of affairs in the world. We still
that one, yeah. Look, during your During your artist talks, you explain the techniques like the sponge textured backgrounds and the hidden symbolic elements throughout the exhibition. What are some of the details visitors might miss if they only glance at the works instead of truly spending time with them?
Oh, they'd miss the interconnecting symbology, the things that are repeated in the paintings, but that slightly change. Like, do you want me to give some things away?
No, we're not going to give anything away. But one key thing for me is if you can get to the gallery just before you start the storytelling, I
Yes.
think that will serve its purpose and make it far more
Yes.
worthwhile for anyone who's interested
Very
in
good
seeing
point.
the Odyssey collection. Because, I've been to a lot of galleries, I've looked at a lot of paintings, some I spend more time than others, but this was a very unique and unexpected experience that I had at the gallery. And it really taught me a lot, and I got to see a lot more than what I would have seen if I just walked in and had a look.
Yeah.
I think your storytelling goes hand in hand with each piece, and you do move from one piece to then maybe the one further down, and then you come back, and then you go to the sculptures. And so I would really like the audience and anyone who is enticed to go is to get there a little bit earlier, have a look, and then stop and listen to
Yeah.
the whole way you explain it, because I think that's what makes the biggest difference. Now,
Because it's not
fine,
abstract, there's a lot of stories within it. You want to spend
that's
time, and then
right.
I've got descriptions so you can
Yeah, and
read
it doesn't take
at
long.
your
It
quiet
really,
time.
yeah,
No.
it didn't take long at all, really. And yes, you do have the descriptions, and there's also barcodes that people can link into it. And there was a little bit of music, but we're not going to go in and tell them too much. Now, finally, if someone walks into the Odyssey knowing nothing about Homer or Greek mythology, what is the one feeling or message you hope they carry with them when they leave the gallery? And I promise I've only got one more question left.
I think that they might be sort of impressed upon the wealth of that, what imagination can give us. Like, it's one example of one person's immersion in a deep process. Yes, granted, someone who's trained and skilled and like really accustomed to all of this. But I think if there were no words, you would just walk around and be filled with all these new images and kind of colors and shapes, and feel a sense of wonder first and foremost, just visually, because of the textures and the different shapes and the character. And then you would also feel, again, without knowing, because I've had some people come in not knowing anything about the Odyssey, that you'd see the journey of someone and a transition or evolution of someone, because it's not really like a comic book or a story
No, right.
exactly,
Look, to
but
be
you could
honest,
see
I
this
didn't
transition.
I didn't know the story at all. I knew about the Trojan horse, but that's as far as it went. So I actually walked away and it was like
Great,
I could still hear the story and the images are still
great,
there. Yeah, so that
great.
was my takeaway from it.
Yeah,
I've got one more really important question to ask you before we wrap it up. If you could
yeah.
sit down for 1 hour with any artist or historical figure, living or
Mm.
deceased, who would it be and what would you ask them?
No, this is like a proper interview. Damn, I
Well,
didn't know.
yeah.
Now I'm nervous. Shish. Oh, wow. Um, I think, Van Gogh, I think. Ah,
Yeah, Van Gogh is a good one, actually.
I don't know, but I'm not sure. I don't know that I've got the words to describe, to say why, but let me think again.
Well,
Anyway,
when you
let's
think about
let's go
Van
with
Gogh,
that one.
look, when you think about Van Gogh, that was the first name that came up. What comes straight to you? What's the painting that comes straight to you?
To be honest, it's not paintings, it's his drawings. He did some really amazing
Oh, I love
charcoal
your answer.
drawings,
That's totally different to what
watercolors.
someone would say.
He was
Love
just
it.
such a skillful, vibrant artist, really. He was really, like, had a really powerful line, and a really, like in Greek we say domi, like he had this incredible structure to the way that he drew. I think he was a bit of a poet. I think he was a romantic. So, you know, I'd like to be around people that speak into the liminal spaces, you know, that operate from an ethos of deep inquiry and a service to bringing beautiful things into the world, but also, you know, that value self-expression. So I think, let's just say that he, for better or worse, he represents an element of that. And having said that, you know, we're still inundated with male artists. There's a lot of beautiful female artists that I could have thought of. But
That's okay.
recently I was having a conversation with someone about Van Gogh. So he came up in my mind, but
In
also
your mind. Okay.
he was a great draftsman.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I thank you so much, Efrossini, and I wish you continued success.
Thank you.
And I really want the audience that are out there to get down to the gallery, the ladder
Ladder
art
Art Space, 81
place.
Denmark Street, 81 Denmark Street in Kew, plenty of parking.
There is plenty of parking and parking.
11:30 to 4:30 every day, 11:30 to 4:30 until Saturday.
What time do you do storytelling during the week?
1:00. So I'll do an artist talk each week. I've focused on a different approach and a different way of talking, so they're never the same. So 1:00, but you know, people turn up a little bit after 1, but aim for 1. Aim to come a little bit earlier and just walk around the space before I fill it up with my words.
Alex, which is one of my regular listeners on the KK Factor live chat fam, I call it. He's in the arts, but he's in performing arts, and he said,
Yes.
"Art is my friend. All arts are therapy."
Yes.
And a way to express ourselves, whether it's physical or using our hands by sculpturing or the paintbrush. Efrossini, thank you so much. And once again, I just want to say hello to my friends Mary and Dina for introducing me to you and telling me you need to get down to this exhibition. Efrossini, thank you, and welcome once again to the KK Factor on RPP.
Thank you. I loved it. Thanks,
Hope you
Roula.
enjoyed the rest of the show. I've got another extraordinary interview to do. I'll probably give ourselves about 10 minutes of some music. Another unbelievable woman that's out there doing some great stuff. Efrossini, once again, thank you once again.